Hello and welcome to another episode from Kansas. I have an extremely interesting topic to discuss: little politics and a good dose of business. General Motors announced yesterday that the company will not build petrol and diesel vehicles after 2035. Don't write that down as an auto company doing what it needs to do to survive a fast changing industry, because it is a lot more than that. Importantly, that one piece of information, that GM is doing away with oil consuming vehicles, completely changes the climate change political landscape in the United States. After Biden got elected, my immediate feeling was a sense of relief. But before I could completely embrace that feeling, my mind started spinning in all directions, trying to think what the GOP will do to stop him from succeeding. At that point, the Dems did not have the control of the Senate, so Georgia was, of course, a worry. How far the obstructions will go was another worry, and how far these obstructions will be successful in hurting the majority in the future in 2022 was another worry. But nothing had me worried more than Biden's repeated assertions that he will go bold and big on climate change. The fact that he also was thinking about Pete Buttigieg to lead the transportation industry was all the confirmation I needed to know that the old man was indeed serious about addressing environmental issues. I can totally understand why Biden wants to do it, but as a political analyst, I also understand the problems such a move will open him up to and how it will arm the opposition to paint Biden as against the oil and gas industry, making the argument that he is killing jobs and killing the economy in the process. Because when you transition from an age old industry to a new one, the results will take time to show up, while the downsides will show up immediately. People are losing jobs and companies are going under will get front page coverage, while new businesses adding jobs and doing well will get buried somewhere in the seventh page. A bold climate agenda would have found stubborn resistance from the oil and gas industry. They have a ton of money and they would have funded and fueled the opposition to Biden's plans. For every inch Biden moved, they would have tried to push him back several inches. But despite knowing all these challenges, Biden stubbornly refused to back down. This was the one fight I was worried about, because knowing the Democrats, they are nothing against the Republican spin factory. With enough support from the loop of doom headed by Fox News, Biden's climate agenda could have been the hammer that would be weaponized against Democrats in 2022 and 2024. The oil and gas industry has a ton of money. In the 2020 election cycle, they had spent more than $120 million, and they gave Republicans 5 times as much money as they gave to the Democrats. So having an industry with that kind of muscle on the opposite side is not a good news. So Biden versus the vested interest in oil and gas industry was turning into a fight between an immovable force against an irresistible force. So naturally, I was worried, but General Motors has now bailed out Biden from the trouble that he was heading into by announcing that they will not be building any oil consumption cars after 2035. They have armed Biden with a clear argument that he has to do what he wants to do, because that is the only way he can save American jobs over the long term. Unlike Tesla, that still builds cars in the order of hundreds of thousands every year, General Motors builds cars in the order of millions. Their decision to completely move out of oil consumption tells the oil and gas industry that their game is up. There really is no point in fighting it anymore, because GM's move will force all the auto companies to follow suit. It makes it clear for everyone inside and outside the United States that this transition from oil is only a question of when and not if. So many industries use oil, but nothing comes close to the transportation industry. Transportation, that includes our buses and cars, accounted for 68% of oil consumption in 2019. Auto manufacturing companies are the biggest source of clients for the oil and gas industry. So what happens when one of the world's largest auto manufacturers, a company that builds closer to 9 out of every 100 cars, comes out and says, nope, we are not going to build vehicles that consume oil anymore? You better start preparing for the transition. Electric cars are the fastest growing segment of the auto industry. As of now, they account for just 3% of the global share. But that number has been quietly ticking up with each passing year, a trend that is never going to reverse. GM's decision will place an enormous amount of pressure on other companies like Ford, Volkswagen, and Toyota to follow suit. Tesla was the source of this move by auto companies. The fact that Tesla never really faced demand side issues since the time it sold its first electric car, and the rate at which it has gone about building more factories around the world, one in China, one in Germany, has made it clear to its competitors that they have to build electric cars to compete with Tesla or risk watching Tesla increase its sales year after year at their expense. GM has now become the first company to say, alright, we are ready to take you on Tesla. By 2035, we will be fully electric. Now imagine yourself for a minute sitting in Volkswagen or Ford headquarters. Are you ready to let Tesla and GM run all over you? Are you going to get ready for the fight? What are you going to do? You will gear up for the fight because not doing anything is the best way to go bankrupt. So one by one, they will jump on board. If anything, we should hear similar commitments from other auto companies very soon. So the fastest growing auto company in the world does not consume a single gallon of gasoline, and the largest auto company in the world will not build any vehicle that consumes oil in the future. So what argument will these lobbyists from the oil and gas industry will make when they talk to the Biden administration? Well, this is what they will say. We understand that we have to transition, but there are millions of people working in our industry, so give us time so that we can also join the party. So this is what they have to say. They would not have uttered these words before GM announcement. It would have been a completely different fight. Now the tables have turned and the oil and gas industry will come around, and now it will look for concessions from the new administration so as to be the enablers of the transition instead of being the disablers. The negotiating power has now completely moved in favor of the Biden administration, but there are some glaring potholes the Biden administration will have to sidestep along the way. The transition from oil has to be done, if possible, in a slow and steady manner. A rapid shift will lead to immediate and heavy job losses and business closures, often not in step lock with formation of new businesses and new jobs from battery manufacturing and renewable energy generation related businesses. The government will have to carefully balance the two, aid and help these oil companies so they themselves can move into these new industries, and help them even more if they can retain their employees and retrain them instead of firing them. A carrot and stick approach with clearly spelled out timelines will also reduce the impact on the economy. Truth be told, I am not worried about the millionaires and billionaires of the oil and gas industry, but I am concerned about the workers who depend on their monthly salary. They need to be taken care of. The political opposition to Biden's climate agenda now stands completely punctured. Of course, the GOP spin factory will invent something, but Biden will be ready to point his finger at GM's decision and other auto manufacturers who are moving ahead as the reason why he has to do this. He can easily say that this must be done because it offers long-term benefits for the country, while the GOP is opposing it as part of their obstruction to anything good policy. Thanks for watching. If you like it, please subscribe.